So I've been requested to make a tier list on the number of artifacts that are in Honor Duel, just to kind of rate them on what's good, what you shouldn't pick as much, or what you want to just have fun with. Yeah, and these artifacts will definitely play a role in whether you win or lose, but you know, it all also comes down to your luck in rolling for your heroes, and also in your strategy in setting things up within the match. So, without further ado, let's begin. First off, we have the Tranquil Flask. And I'm just going to place it on C right here just to kind of showcase it. The Tranquil Flask is a Wilder specific item where it heals your entire team if it's Wilders after 5 seconds when the battle starts, and then 10 seconds thereafter. So it'll give you a quick burst of healing for the first 5 seconds when the battle starts. Then 10 seconds after that, it re-triggers over and over. Personally, if I just want to play an all Wilder team, I would probably choose a much more different item than this, or a different artifact than this. I would probably put this in high C or low B tier. Yeah, let's just put it in C tier for now. Actually, let's rename these real quick. So here are our ranks of must pick, amazing, above average, and could be better, and don't ever pick random if you have the choice. Now, next up on the list is this one right here called Lucky Cage, where after 3 seconds when a battle starts, it deals damage to 2 of your opponent's heroes based on your entire team's attack every 12 or so seconds. Also, it stuns them for 2.5 seconds, so you can essentially lock out your opponents in the back line with this item, dealing decent damage based on how your team composition is. If your team composition has a lot of heroes that have a lot of attack, then this item would definitely, or this artifact would definitely do more damage than if you were to have it just all healers or support or tanks on your team. I would actually rate this higher than the Tranquil Flask, maybe even to above average. I will put it in B tier for now, or above average. Now, this next item is called the Fragrant Bag, which provides additional haste and vitality to your entire team. This goes for any team that you have. Doesn't matter what faction it is, like the Tranquil Flask. However, the effect does expire if any of your allied heroes do go down. So if your tank just get bursted down, all the effects of this artifact goes away. However, it does create a opportunity for your team to steamroll your enemy really quickly. I actually really enjoy this artifact. Would most likely put it within the amazing tier for now, if not very high above average, or the B tier. The next one is Gruglin Mask, and now this artifact is at the very beginning of every match. It reduces your enemy's hit points to 50%, and then they slowly gain that health back over the next 20 or so seconds. I have tried to play with this quite a few times. There's only a very specific few teams that really work with this specific artifact, and it's mainly something like a Leica team, I would say, where she will consistently deal damage to your entire team with her meteors, or someone, I would even say, if you have a very specific item that activates their ultimate, that you can immediately get that damage right off from the very start. So this could be good, but it's very situational. I would probably put this in like, could be better. right in the middle, smack dab in the middle, because it does rely on a very specific team and a very specific build. Now, this next one is actually one of my favorites. It's called Pure Nectar. And what it does is that it focuses on your team having copies. So whether they are at legendary status or mythic status, this artifact will give them that specific, or this artifact will definitely give them a very huge boost in their basic stats. So essentially all your attack, health, defense, etc. What it does is that at the very start of a battle, if you have any mythic heroes, it gives them a flat upgrade to their basic stats. And then 10 seconds right after that, so right after 12 seconds, it gives another bonus to both legendary and mythic heroes. And I believe the mythic heroes stats do stack, making this item or artifact essentially a very late game powerhouse, especially if you can survive the first 12 seconds of a match, assuming you don't get bursted down. In my opinion, this is a high B for me, like a above average to even a low A, just because I have been testing out a lot more Mauler teams, and for a Mauler team, if you get really lucky in your copies, they are practically unkillable. Like having a Lumont, even a legendary Lumont or an Entendre, or hell, Brutus. You got your melees up in the front taking the brunt of the damage. Lumont self shield, Entendre when she ult has damage reduction, especially if you're playing a Mauler team. You have Coco that also has damage reduction with her ulti. Brutus just can't be killed for 5 seconds. So this definitely provides such a huge buff to that team that you're able to snowball out of control, especially after the 12-second mark. Very good item, or very good artifact in my opinion. Now this next item, I wasn't really able to find the actual picture or the description when I was looking it up on the wiki for AFK Journey. This item is called the Inspiring Horn. I don't know the exact numbers, but essentially once you defeat a enemy hero, this buffs your entire team's haste, and haste affects its movement speed, its attack speed, its animation as well, and it can be cast twice after you knock out 2 opponents within every match. So once you immediately take out one of your opponent's heroes, you already begin to snowball the match. Especially once you take out your second hero, it's pretty much just over at that point. I would say this could be a low B or a high C for sure, just because it can go on every team, especially if you go on like a very bursty team, like a Graveborn team with a Sylvina, and maybe even a Seth running around. The Sylvina can just kind of blink towards the weakest target, immediately eliminate one of your opponent's heroes, thus gaining this haste buff for your entire team. Seth can jump in to help out as well, and then you just move on to the next target. You already have this huge advantage, especially taking out your opponent very quickly, thus making it a 5v4. On top of that, your entire team already gets another buff, which makes them attack faster, moves faster, cast faster, and their entire animation goes faster. Very good. However, it doesn't. The only reason why I put it within a low B is because I would maybe even put it here, right above the Lucky Cage, just because it doesn't really provide you much if you are unable to burst down your opponent or even take down one of your opponent's heroes. It's just a dead artifact if you're not able to do anything about it. So I think I'll put it to low B for now. And things are subject to move if I feel there are more better items that are coming in. All right, and this next item this next artifact is the Lithe Larkspur. I think that's how you pronounce it. The Lithe Larkspur. This item gives you energy every 5 seconds to your entire team. However, it does reduces your allies' team damage by 25%, except for your ultimates. So, if you are running a team that relies on normal attacks or any skills that they may have, this might not be the best item or artifact for them. But if you're relying on like big bursts of damage from your team, this is such a great item to have, or a great artifact to have. I don't know why I keep saying item. Maybe I'm just used to it. This artifact actually can provide a lot of utility. You know, getting your healer to immediately ult to save your team, getting your tank to lock down your opponent. If you are playing Granny, if you're playing like the Light Bear, your Lucius can shield your entire team. And also if you're playing Light Bear, like a Vala would do very well with this artifact, just because it would just continuously trigger her ultimate, whether it is a range attack or a melee attack. It just makes her go off so much faster. Very good item. I do want to put this in right below above average and below Pure Nectar for now, just because I do think it deserves its place. For me, I personally like to play something that's more of a well-rounded team, where my team can provide normal attacks. Their skills are able to take out the enemy team as well, on top of some ultimates here and there. So actually, yeah, maybe even low A. It's either a low A or a high B. It's one of these two. And for me, Pure Nectar is a high B. All right, and the next item is the Crimson Gem. This artifact is very melee focused, just because it creates this aura around each hero, dealing a percentage of your opponent's max HP every second your heroes are next to them. And it also, keep in mind, this goes through shields too. So Lucius shields will do nothing to stop the burn damage for your opponents. And only healing is able to mitigate this. And on top of that, with multiple ally units on a enemy hero, they do take less fire damage, or burn damage, I guess, from this gem. Just because if they didn't, it would just be way too powerful. I don't know the exact numbers, but this is kind of fit for a melee focused composition. Think Maulers. They do have the most melee. They do have the most tankiest melee for their faction. I believe Graveborn have the same amount, with Thorn, Sylvina, and Niru and Salazar. However, three out of the four of them are very weak, and they do go down fairly quickly. So I do want to put this probably above Grugland Mask, or yeah, somewhere in the C tier, I would say, just because it's very team focused as well, very faction specific. Maybe not as faction specific as the Wilder one, but at least the Wilder one, you know what you're going for, and it's a very good team. While this is mainly focused for the Mauler team, and yeah, it's decent, but not the best for Maulers in my opinion. Alright, moving forward, the next one is Pyro Catalyst, and this item is very focused around Muriel. This artifact gives her a attack percentage boost. On top of that, every time she knocks out a enemy hero, she does gain a bit more energy, which all plays into this artifact. This specific artifact changes her ultimate into a wider range hyper beam. So I believe her regular ultimate only hits 3 tiles. This extended to 5, widening it. That was hard to say. widening it, and also making it true damage. So originally she would be dealing magic damage. However, now it becomes a straight up Kamehameha, wiping out anybody that is in line with her ultimate. Also, any units that are on the sides will take 50% of the maximum damage. I've seen success, I've seen failures with this specific artifact. The times I've had success, I would say it is all due to pure luck, just because I was able to get the correct items to really buff up my Muriel in the backline. So I would have a Lucius in the front, having a item that buffs their stats whenever Lucius dies, behind Lucius, behind the carrier, and I would place Muriel right behind, and then having someone like a Rowan placed right behind Muriel with the like the blue bell, which gives the person in front of the carrier reduced damage taken by 12%. So essentially, I'm giving her every stat buff, damage reduction buff I can to make her survive to at least get one ult off, because the entire game can change with just one ult. If she gets 1 or 2 kills with it, she immediately recharges her energy bar to cast it again. So the goal is for her to survive, get as much energy as she can, fire off those lasers, wiping your enemy team. The weakness of this is that she's very easily picked off. She's very squishy. She is a mage after all, a short-ranged mage. Her range is of 3 tiles, so that is very, very short range, very squishy, can get blown up very quickly. I would even put this right here next to the Gruglin Mask, just because, I mean, I had more failures and successes on my attempt when playing this particular artifact. There are specific items that help her get her ultimate right off as well. So those are very helpful if you are able to make it to the end game, which is very hard to do because surviving the early game and mid game is pretty much the hardest parts for this artifact and playstyle. All right, and moving to the next one, Pale Crown. Needless to say, I'm just gonna put that right here. I've already have 2 videos on this in my channel. Yeah, this is a must pick. Every time you see this in your selection for Honor Duels, pick this item, build your Sylvina right away. This item just destroys everything. The reason being is that the whole team is focused around Sylvina. What does Sylvina do? Sylvina teleports to the enemy tile that is symmetrical to her own. Or if it's not symmetrical, then it teleports to the closest tile that is to her own. So you can really pick off the squishy or the high value units from your enemy backline. On top of that, she would not become the priority target for the first 8 seconds of her teleporting. Very, very good. Especially if you're able to blow up your enemy healer, your enemy Muriel, especially if they have this item. If they have this item, the Fragrant Bag, you just wait. You don't place Sylvina as the first formation. So during the first formation, you put 3 units down, and then you place the next 2 in formation 2. So I personally always recommend to place Sylvina within formation 2, so then at least you can see, okay, my opponent is playing Wilder. The only tankiest unit in that team, in that faction, is the Granny. Maybe a Hewin coming up next. However, there is a 3rd unit that they place down, whether that is Byron, which is archers, or any of the mages. You can immediately teleport to them with Sylvina, take one of their units out, and hey look, they lost all their benefits from Fragrant Bag, and now they're this artifact for them is completely useless. Now, Pale Crown will also grant your Sylvina another teleport, which prioritizes the next weakest target, dealing 2.2 times her normal damage. Such a good item. You can definitely see her teleport 5 times behind your enemy units. 5 teleports, 5 deaths. You will end the game within 10 seconds. I guarantee. I've done it so many times. Must pick every time. Can't say anything more about that. Now, this next artifact is called the Immortal Flame. It's also another ultimate-oriented build. Essentially, what it does is that it creates this blast wave every 4 ultimates that your team does. It also deals true damage to your opponents based on their max HP, and with every subsequent blast wave going forward. So every time you get 4 ultimates off, then 8, then 12, then 16, and so on and so forth, the blast wave increases its damage with each subsequent blast wave. Very good item if you're able to survive, especially if you play like a tanky frontline with probably a Rowan as your support, which helps batteries your team, which gets more ultimates off, which then your team does more damage, which then your artifact does more damage. I would probably put this here, definitely above Crimson Gem, under C tier, where it could be better, just because, you know, if your team does get bursted down, you get 1 less character to cast their ultimate, and then, you know, your enemy team moves on to the next one. Then now you have 3 units left, and so after 3 units, it's really hard to then trigger the artifact's abilities after that. So it's very difficult to use. Next item, Bone Scroll. Bone Scroll is a Mauler specific item. It gives them death immunity for a number of seconds, and based on what rank they are, whether they are epic, legendary, or mythic, those increases their invulnerability by a number of seconds. This, honestly, before the patch and the update, I would say this item was a don't ever pick, or pick random, like a D tier, or a very low C. After the fix, especially once you have Coco, once you have Rise coming in, or Reese, I would put this in a high C, definitely above Immortal Flame and Crimson Gem in my opinion, just because I have gotten wins. Maybe even like here, yeah, because I've been trying to play with more Mauler teams and testing it out with like different artifacts. I've actually gotten the most success out of Maulers from Bone Scroll. I mean, obviously it's the artifact that is catered to them, and also Pure Nectar, just because the more copies I get of them, just the more stats they get, the more unkillable they are, and they will eventually shred your enemy's team. Yeah, Bone Scroll would either be a high C, even a low B at certain cases, but I'll put this in a high C for now, just because it does rely on your luck in rolling for Mauler copies. The next one, Art of Ruling. This one is this artifact actually makes your frontmost unit become this quote-unquote vanguard, essentially making them the most important unit on the field. The reason being is that it gives them a stat buff, like a basic stat buff, and also restores their energy every couple of seconds. However, if that unit dies, the rest of your team loses, I believe it's 5% of their basic stats. So making them slightly weaker, but not enough to where it'll take them out of the fight completely. I would even put this in the low B stage, even mid B. The reason being is that yeah, your frontline units are mostly very good. You want them to have very tanky stats. You want them to have a lot of energy so they can get their ultimates off. Hell, I'll even put this as like a high-ish B. There we go. And you know, like let's just say you have a Lucius up front for the light bearer side. You give him enough stats just because he is a fairly like squishy tank out of most of the tanks. Yeah, you give him extra stats, you give him additional energy, so the stats will make him survive in order for him to cast his ultimate for the rest of your team to get their ultimates up and protect the rest of your team. If you put like Tunisia in front as your vanguard, you know, she becomes this monster that it tanks everything, becomes a menace to your enemy back line, does more damage, able to heal up herself, and also, you know, generate that energy so where she can ultimate and stomp on your enemy team to kind of give them a small stun, knocking them down. Very great, very good item, especially for Mauler teams as well. Like having a Lumont just being unable to be killed and him pushing your enemy team around just makes it so fun. Entendre, same thing, getting her ultimate where she's able to taunt everyone to her and she gets reduced damage before taking a swing on them is very good as well. Graveborn, Thorn, I mean, it's Thorn. He'll get his ultimate, and if you can get him an item where it taunts surrounding enemy units to him while he's ulting, it just makes such a good combo together. And then Granny, of course, Granny. You put this on Granny, or you make Granny the Vanguard. She will just not die, get her ultimates off, locks down your entire team, self-healed. You know how it goes. Yeah, this is such a good item. Actually, I might even put this here. It's now that I'm talking about it more, it's actually pretty good for any frontline unit. Can't say I have that much high praises. Maybe even a low A. I'll put this in A for now. I don't know. Either A or B. I'll put this in A for now. We still have a few more artifacts to go with. All right, this next artifact is the Rock Necklace. All based on your team and how they can play the control game for your opponent or against your opponent. Essentially, it shoots rocks at enemy heroes whenever your ally heroes cast some sort of controlling ability or force displacement on them. So think of Cassidy with her ultimate where it just pushes everyone around. This artifact will just trigger, stunning them along with dealing about 10% of their maximum health on top of your ultimate damage. Very good in, let's say you just build around a light bearer team where you have a Lucius, a Tunisia, a Walker, a Cassidy, and probably a Rowan as your support healer. Yeah, Lucius goes up front, does a shield bash as his skill, which pushes him back, which is a force displacement, knocking him down. The artifact triggers, stunning and dealing damage to your entire enemy team. Tunisia goes running around. Walker will build up his ultimate charge. His ultimate charge just stuns everyone in front of him, or at least where he's facing, so he has his own stun. You then have Cassidy, which casts a knock up, and her ultimate, which just pushes everyone around. So you have a lot of control with that team. I would actually put this probably right here. Yeah, maybe even move this here. I want to move the Bone Scroll back, just now thinking about it. Having a team-wide heal that never fades for Wilder is actually pretty decent. Yeah, I think Rock Necklace fits right in between these two, the Immortal Flame and Bone Scroll, just because It does do decent damage. It does provide a extra stun to the enemy team. However, I haven't found much success with this yet. Maybe I do need to test it out a little bit more. But yeah, C, I think for me is the home for that particular artifact. All right, this next one is the Luxurious Sachet, and this is a light bear specific item, so I will put it right here. Oops, right here. It's like in between these two, I would say. The reason being is that it's you can only build light bears with it. What it does is that it gives all your light bearers increased attack percent, increased damage, essentially increase basic stats for them, making them just a little bit more hardy, tanky, dealing a little bit more damage than if you didn't have this item. Honestly, yeah, I think this is a good place for it, just because you are limited to building light bears. It just constantly triggers every 10 seconds, so yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty solid item, but it just limits you to playing light bear. All right, this next item is the Snow Herb, which focuses all its attention onto Carolina. Yeah, definitely a must pick, I would say. Low must pick or high A. Just because, well, number one, Graveborn is the best faction in my opinion. Just because Sylvena's there and it's just the coolest faction in my opinion. Mauler coming in second. But anyways, regarding Snow Herb and Carolina, it gives Carolina an increased stat boost. Also, it reduces the cooldown of her skill, which is her snowballs, just by a little bit. And also, there is no casting animation for her using her skill. On top of that, she does regain additional energy, so it gets through her ult much faster once she regains snowballs, which is just over time. So if you do have a team that is focused on protecting Carolina, she can just go off with her snowballs, which actually does a lot of damage, and then she just constantly casts her ultimate ability, which just freezes one target for what seems like a millennia. I'm just gonna be honest. On top of that, whenever she casts her ultimate on a target, any enemy hero that is around the frozen unit does get slowed down and also take damage if they are nearby the frozen target. Very good item, or very good artifact in my opinion. Such a good value pick if you are able to select it. The next artifact is the Relic Shard, and the Relic Shard is also a light bearer item, so I'll put this under C between these two. Basically revolves around your light bearer heroes dying, and whenever you have a light bearer hero getting taken out, the rest of your light bearers gets buffed via their stats, and also giving them a little bit of energy regen to their ultimate. I've actually had more success with Relic Shard than the Luxurious Sachet in the past, just because I feel like this item really revolves around like Lucius kind of getting taken out early if you don't get lucky on your rolls to get him the right items, or even copies of him. He does just fall down, but with him falling down, it buffs up the rest of your team, so your Temisia will do more damage, your Vala will do more damage. Hell, even your Walker will tank a little bit more to get his ultimate off. Yeah, very good item if, let's just say, you have a choice between these three, the Bone Sword, the Luxurious Sachet, or even the Relic Shard. Pick the Relic Shard every time. Alright, moving forward. So, this one, the Obsidian Earring. I'm just going to put it right here because this is moving too far, but it may not be in the D tier. The Obsidian Earring is a Graveborn item that revolves around their team. Essentially, it does depend on how much damage they have taken within a specific amount of time. I believe it's 12 seconds before it does a blast wave of its own to return that damage back to the enemy team. Depending on if it's a legendary or a mythic Graveborn hero on your team, the damage ramping just goes higher and higher. In my opinion, this would probably be somewhere here. Yeah, somewhere here. Just because this item is very it's varied. It definitely doesn't work as much as you think. Just because if they take out one of your allied Graveborn units, now you have 4 units to take damage, and then they take out another one. Now you have 3, and then they take more concentrated fire from your enemy heroes. It just means they die faster. Thus, this doesn't trigger as much damage as you think it would do. So definitely in between these two, low C, in my opinion. Yeah, nothing really much to say about that. Now, this one is the Crystal Dew, and it revolves around your team building in not holding any artifact, or my apologies, not holding any equipment or items on your allied team. The reason being is that if you are not holding any equipment or items, your heroes gain more initial energy and also gain a boost to their stats based on what their level is. Whether they are legendary or mythic, they'll be granted more stats if they are a higher level. I would put this into the low B tier just because... Yeah, low B sounds about right. Just because, sometimes you just want that initial energy to pop off. This will make your team building just mainly focus on getting the copies that you need, rather than, I need to save up for this item for my team, for one of my heroes in order to make them work. This will just give them the raw stats needed and also gives them the energy to get their ultimates off, hopefully before your opponent gets it. Decent item. I would pick this if I have a choice between one of the C tier artifacts, in my opinion. All right, the next artifact is the Golden Blooms, and this one is a healing artifact where if your health drops below I believe it's 50%. It restores a percentage of their health. It just provides an emergency heal to them. However, it doesn't trigger all the time. It triggers every 5 or 6 seconds. There is a cooldown to it, and it can only trigger a certain number of times between each battle. So you can't just out-sustain your enemy team if you only have this item. It just provides an emergency heal for your team if you really need it. Definitely, I would put this somewhere around here, maybe even here, just because there are teams you can build where your artifact can do the healing for you, rather than using up a hero slot for a much more dedicated healer. So for example, if you were playing a light bearer team, this item would be really good for them because Rowan doesn't provide that much healing team-wide, and he can focus more on being a battery instead of a healer. I mean, he does provide emergency heals with his potion as well, but this can help supplement that healing when needed. So decent item, but I think there are better options out there. The next item, the Incense Sensor. This item is a very funny artifact, I would say. This one just creates a whole fog on the battlefield, which affects both allies and enemies. It reduces damage to everyone by 50%, and think of it like a poison fog. It just slowly puts a poison on everyone. So what players do tend to do is just to build a outlast team. And what I mean by that is that you get a Granny, you get a Lucius, you get a Huan, you get a Rowan, and you get, I don't know, maybe a Vala. So you essentially have 4 healers and sustainers that keep your own team alive while your Vala is in the back just taking shots at your enemy 1 by 1. With the help of this item, it reduces the damage of everyone, so your tanks do not get taken down by burst damage. Your healers are able to heal at max potential. Rowan is there to battery your entire team, has potions to where if one of your tanks are getting targeted too far, they can immediately do an emergency heal with his potions. Yeah, and then your opponent just slowly gets chipped down by the poison itself. It's just not a very fun team to play against or even play with, to be honest. Expect a lot of draws. I would actually put this in the D tier. This would be the first item I would pick in the D tier, just because it is not a fun artifact to play with or even to play against. If I were to go into a Honor Duel and this was the only option to choose from, I will go random every single time. Simple as that. Yeah, don't pick this item if you actually want wins, I would say. The next artifact we have is the Mystic Crystals, which revolves around surviving until the artifact can do something. Basically, survive for 30 seconds and then this artifact takes off. It will constantly drop big ass meteors on the enemy team, stunning them, dealing pretty decent damage to them. I would say the way to play this team using this item is definitely survivability as much as you can. Personally, I would either say this is a C tier item or a high D, just because surviving that long is actually very tough in this game. There are a lot of burst units that your opponents can choose, like a Vala, like a Sylvina, for example, that will able to take out one of your units, and this item is useless for the first 29 seconds of a match, and a match can end in 10 if you have a Sylvina or a Vala that can pick off your backline pretty quickly. So I would say low C, still better than the Censor or Muriel's item, which is the Pyro Catalyst. The next artifact is the Crystal Cell, and the Crystal Cell pretty much makes your frontmost unit the tankiest of the bunch, increasing their defense and their magic defense, and also the rest of your team will get a damage boost as long as your frontmost unit is alive. So this item is actually pretty decent and works with any team. I would actually put this up in the A tier. Actually, I would even put this above these two, just because having your front line just become more tanky, physical damage increase, magical defense is also increased, and the rest of your team just gains additional damage is great. You have your Granny up front. That's the only tank you need, to be honest. Your Huan's able to heal her up, she's able to self-sustain, and then the rest of your damage is all Wilders. You have Byron, which is your high-speed marksman dealing damage. You have your Parissa, which is a very big burst of magic damage whenever she's able to get her ult off. You have Arden, casting lightning bolts and entangling roots. Wilder with this item is very strong. I mean, even Lightbearer is good too. You make Lucius the tankiest guy, and Tamisa is able to run in the back. Vala's dealing like 20% more damage. This item is just so good. Graveborn, you have Thorin as your tank. Sylvina just jumps in the back, dealing 25% more damage. Maulers, you have like 3 different options of who you want your tanks to be. The rest of your backline is Ryze and Odie. They're able to do even more damage now. This item is actually very good. I would even put this to high A, low S. I'm gonna actually put this in S tier, just because I found so much great success with this item personally. Now the next artifact is the deer statue, or what is called the oracle sculpture, but I call it the deer statue. It pretty much surrounds, makes Leica your main carry, granting her haste, and haste is about movement speed, attack speed, and their cast animation increased, and also grants your entire team a buff, where you're able to drop meteorites on the enemy team, dealing 40% more damage on their normal attacks, which if you do build a team surrounding Leica, like having a Byron in the back as support, I believe even having a floor bell, you're able to dish out a lot of damage just based off of normal attacks. Pretty decent item, especially with Leica having a haste buff granted within the latest patch notes for Honor Duel. Definitely above these guys over here, these artifacts over here. However, I personally don't like it as much, just because Leica is kind of like a support and an archer at the same time. She's able to deal decent damage, however, she mainly buffs all of your normal attacking units more than she does damage. I mean, it's still decent. I just don't prefer this playstyle as much. Fun fact is that my very first match of Honor Duel was actually this item, and I got a 9-0 on it. Didn't lose a single match, and I was like, oh man, Leica is great, and then I realized, no, she's not that great. Anyways, just a fun fact I wanted to share. Alright, we're coming down to the last few artifacts. So the next one is the Glowing Blossom. The Glowing Blossom is a very interesting item just because it does reduce your team's health by 20% at the start of the battle. However, it does grant your entire team energy after 3 seconds whenever a battle starts. So it gives you a boost of energy right at the very beginning, so your team is able to get their ultimates faster than your opponents. Actually pretty decent. However, if you do go up against an opponent with the Gruglin Mask, which reduces your team's health by 50% at the very start, and then you slowly gain it back over, I believe it's 20 seconds. Yeah, having these two work against your team, your team can just evaporate from the very beginning. That being said, that's only one artifact out of, I don't know how much this is, like 18 artifacts. I would put this above average as well, just because it is a very risky play, but you know, you have a Hewin out there, you're able to just heal up much faster, get her ultimate up faster. You have a Smokey that is able to AoE heal your entire team. That's totally fine. I think ultimates are more important. Typically is like whichever team gets their ultimates off first usually is the winner. So this will give you a very big chunk of energy for your team for the cost of some health. Really good item in my opinion. I would actually put this somewhere like here, to be honest with you. Now the next artifact is the Flame Orb, and the Flame Orb is pretty cool. It shoots a fireball that targets the weakest enemy unit. And the damage is based off of your entire team's attack, and also based on the missing health of that weakened unit. So it can help finish off any low level or any low health units, and it just, you know, moves on to the next target. It fires off after every few seconds, so don't worry about it not going off. To be honest, this is a very good item for like a Sylvina team or a very like very assassin-y team. Even if you don't play assassin team, this can be good to like get that extra damage to pick off the front line. If you just need that extra push before the healer gets their ultimate off, or the tank gets their ultimate off, this can pick them off right away, leading you to a win. I do want to say this is low B, high C. However, just because maybe low B. There are teams that you can play with that plays with this, like an assassin team or even like a normal team is decent. It just consider this like an extra damage dealer. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that actually. The next artifact is the Proud Greaves, and this item gives attack speed, a very big chunk of attack speed, to one of your units in the rearmost position. So for the unit that you place in the very back, they gain a huge amount of attack speed. Yeah, in my opinion, I don't like this item just because it just mainly focuses on the rearmost, and there are a couple of popular heroes that your enemy can choose to just take out your rearmost unit, like a Vala, for example, or a Temesia, which charges the farthest unit every time she attacks. So yeah, having this Proud Greaves just makes them a target no matter what. I would put this in low C or even D tier, just because it just makes your rearmost target the most important target for your team and your opponent's team. Yeah, Sylvina can also blink towards the back to take him out as well. So yeah, I don't want to put too much emphasis on this unit if I don't have to. And last but not least, the Breeze Rider. And this looks different just because the wiki didn't have a picture of it nor a description, so I had to take screenshots of it within the game itself. So the Breeze Rider is a very interesting artifact. It prevents your entire team from casting an ultimate, but doing so, it drains whatever energy your team is generating every 5 seconds to create this blast wave, which affects your enemy heroes, which affects your enemy team, and it does damage based off of your entire team's attack. With each subsequent blast wave, it gathers more and more percentage of your team's attack. So I believe first let's just say it's 10%. The next blast wave will be like 12% or 13. And then the next blast wave after that is 16 and 19 and so on and so forth. And this happens every 5 seconds or so. Yeah, the Breeze Rider, I would say if you want early game wins, this is a very good item for early game. When I say early game, I mean like the first 3 to 4 games or the first 3 to 4 wins. After that, it starts to really fall off, just because your opponent will get more copies to increase their unit's survivability, or get items needed to increase their survivability. I don't think having this item is justifiable enough to give up ultimates for a blast wave that your opponent will survive the first 1 or 2 blast waves. And you know, every 5 seconds is already a long time. Actually, the first 5 seconds isn't that long, but 10 seconds into a battle, 15 seconds into a battle before you're able to take out an opponent is already a long time. Keep in mind that the blast wave is based off of your entire team's attack, which is your surviving team's attack. So if they start taking out your allied heroes, each blast wave would do less and less damage because you're just losing out on your team's attack. So I think overall this is a pretty decent tier list in my opinion, based off of my opinions alone. Just because of my experience with Honor Duel, this is just what I've come to recognize the power within every artifact. And now I will mix things up. So if people wanted to skip to the back line, if they wanted to skip to the back of the video, they will be very confused into why I put items in elsewhere. So let me just shift some things around. Let's go here. You can go there. You can go there. That can go there. Yeah, let's put something like this, huh? All right, so so for those who's wondering, I do believe that having Relic Shard is really good, just because Light bears are very strong in this meta right now, especially with the Cassidy buff, especially with Walker. You have your frontline dying, like your Lucius and your Tamisia just get bursted down. Now your Cassidy will be doing more damage. Now your Walker will be doing more damage. Hell, even Rowan can do some damage here and there with his potions, I guess. Yeah, Mauler's having Bone Scroll up there. They just become so strong in what they do, especially with the 2 new units coming in, especially with Entendre taking less damage, Brutus dealing more damage, Odie having a faster attack speed. Yeah, Bone Scroll is definitely a must pick if you are rolling with a Mauler team. I pick this every time just because. Yeah, you just need survivability, and with the buffs, they'll survive with this, able to deal that extra additional damage to your opponent team in order to survive. Having Muriel, Pyro, Callus in the A tier, obviously Light Bear is great. Your entire team can control the enemies. She's able to get her ultimate off real quick, wiping them off easy peasy. Incense, obviously easy A tier. Preventing damage from your opponents. You're able to survive if you build a team correctly around it, and you're also slowly killing them with the poison. Obviously, the more games you play with this, the more you'll see why it's in A tier. So I do think this is a definitive list that I've come up with, and yeah, let me know what you think, and would love to chat with you about your opinions regarding about my list, and yeah. Anyways, see you guys next time and hope you take care.